Consolidated Human Services Board meeting. I will be serving as your chair temporarily this evening. I'm Janet Payne, Director of the Consolidated Human Services Agency, and I would like to begin by having the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now offer an invitation. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to gather in service to our community. We ask for wisdom this evening as we consider the needs of all of those we serve in Union County, for clarity as we make decisions and unity as we work together for the common good. Guide the conversations around this room, strengthen our compassion, and help us to lead with integrity, humility, and care. May our work this evening and on all of our days reflect justice, hope, and respect for every person. Amen. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the Consolidated Human Services Board minutes for the October 2023 meeting. There is a copy of the minutes in your packet. Y'all can take a moment to review those, and when you're ready, let me know if any changes need to be made or if there's a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Amy and second by Brandy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item is the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve from Brandy, second from Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. The next item is the Executive Director's report. And the first item that we will complete during this portion is the Consolidated Human Services Board elections for the 2026 calendar year. The board elects a chair and vice chair annually at the first meeting of the calendar year to serve a one-year term. The executive committee shall be composed of a chair, vice chair, and one additional member of the board as voted upon by the board annually at the same time and in the same manner as the vice chair. Nominations will be received and discussed in the order of their nomination, and the first nominee to receive a majority of the votes of the members present shall be appointed to the position. Once the chair and vice chair are elected, their terms of office shall begin immediately upon election. Last year, Amy Dickey was elected as the chair, and Brandy Smith was elected as vice chair, and Dr. Craig Kolash was elected to serve in the other person executive committee position. All three of those are eligible because they've only served 1 year in that role for reappointment to those positions if you all so elect, and anyone else is also eligible to serve in those positions. So at this point, I would like to open up the floor for nominations for the chair.
Yeah. Can I renominate Amy for chair?
Brandy would like to nominate Amy Dickey
Second.
for chair, and Dr. Weiss seconds that. Excellent. Making sure I'm following the process there, I believe. Are there any other nominations for chair? And you may self-nominate as well. All right, hearing none, I would like to request a vote on the nomination of Amy Dickey to serve in the role of Chair of the Consolidated Human Services Board for the 2026 year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. That nomination passes. And so now, Ms. Dickey, congratulations. And I believe that we will go into the vice chair nominations.
Excellent. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? I was going to nominate Brandy for another term. She is so willing. She is. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair? we have a second for my nomination? All right, we could take a vote on Brandy serving a second term as vice chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So it passes.
Thank you.
Next, we have the position of, on the executive committee. Previously, Dr. Kalash had this position. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to renominate Dr. Kolash.
Any second? Dr. Weiss as a second. Do we have any other nominations for the executive committee? With no other nominations, I'd like to put Dr. Kolash's nomination to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? And it also passes. Congratulations to Dr. Kolash. Next up, I'm going to send it back to you, Ms. Payne.
Our next item, there are actually three items that are going to be sort of tied together, or at least related to this, but the next item that we would like to have is the dangerous dog, potentially dangerous dog determination and appeal process, and this will be an update and information on the process as a whole provided by the Sheriff's Office. I would ask them to introduce themselves when they begin. I believe you have a microphone there. And the intent of this will just be to go over the process as a whole, inform you about the general statute and local code of ordinances that apply and give authorization and authority for these activities, and then the process that is utilized in making determinations. And then as a follow-up to this, when we go over the next agenda item, which is the rules of procedure and policies, there will be an addition of content and information associated with this, just about y'all's process specifically in association with this. And then if you all choose to take action to adopt that, there will be a third item, which would be selection of potential members on an ad hoc committee should there ever be an appointment. And so at this point, I would like to turn it over to Lieutenant Jamie Grigg and Sheriff's Legal Counsel Brandon Christian.
I usually don't talk into a microphone, so I don't know if this is working or not, but can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm Lieutenant Jamie Grigg, and I am over the Animal Services Division of the Sheriff's Office. I've been in that role for 2 years, and I've worked at the Sheriff's Office for 24 years in various different roles. We wanted to come tonight and just kind of go over what Animal Services does when we deem a dog dangerous, potentially dangerous. We take in over 500 bite reports a year. But in 2025, with those bite reports that we investigate and we receive, only 3 dogs were deemed as dangerous or potentially dangerous dogs. A lot of investigation goes into these matters when we get them to determine if we're going to deem the dog dangerous. We, of course, we follow the county ordinance and Chapter 67 of the general statutes that gives us guidelines for what has the dog done and does it meet that criteria in the statute before we deem the dog dangerous. And as you can expect, we all have something in our mind of what is a dangerous dog. Obviously one that runs at you in a threatening manner like it's going to bite you and you feel the need to run. That could be a potentially dangerous dog. But I'll just go over some of the statute that we look at before we deem a dog dangerous, which may end up one day getting it, to the appeal board process to get here to the health department. All bites are reported to the health department and are reported for us for investigation. But under Chapter 67 of the general statutes, a dangerous dog means it's a dog without provocation has killed or inflicted severe injury on a person. It is determined by the person or the board designated by the county or municipality authority responsible for animal control to be a potentially dangerous dog because it has engaged in one or more behaviors listed below. And this is some of the other factors that we look at when it's reported to us of these different dog bites that happen around the county. Did it inflict a bite on a person that resulted in broken bones, disfiguring lacerations, or required cosmetic surgery or hospitalization? A lot of people that get bit end up at the hospital, whether it's for stitches or x-rays to clean that wound out. What's disfiguring lacerations, it's really kind of up to determination. You know, if I have a big rip on the side of my face and I have stitches in it, to me that's disfiguring my face. Same thing for arms or hands. So we look at a lot of pictures. The deputies are out there getting photographs of these incidents, doing a actual police report on the incident, supplement reports, and those pictures are all being attached to this. The deputies that go out to the calls for the bites, they're the investigators, the detectives, so to speak, on the dog bites when they get those. The determining factor of the dangerous dog comes to me. So I'm not the person that gets the call and goes out to the scene, but I'm getting all the evidence given to me through the police report, witness statements, camera footage from people's homes, etc. And then I'm looking at all the facts. The dog could also have killed or inflicted serious injury upon another domestic animal when not on the owner's real property. So if it didn't attack a person, but it just attacks another pet, it's got to leave its property to do so to be deemed a potentially dangerous dog. It's not the case for people, but for another dog or cat that it attacks, you know, it's got to leave its property. It can actually approach a person when not on its property, just in that vicious, terrorizing manner. And we get calls for that a lot too, where somebody's just taking a stroll in their subdivision and this German Shepherd keeps running off of the property and chasing them down the street, and they have to run from it. And in their opinion, this dog is going to attack me if I don't run. So even a dog just doing that with no bite whatsoever constitutes under general statute as a potentially dangerous dog. You don't have to wait to get bit to do something about it, more or less. Like I said earlier, we get a lot of bites throughout the year. They're reported to us from the hospital, urgent care, personal doctors. They can self-report it on our website, our app. They come in through faxes, 911 calls, and over 500 of those bite reports were recorded with us last year. But only 3 dogs met the criteria to be a dangerous dog. If those dogs are deemed dangerous, the second I deem that dog dangerous, it is in our kennel at the shelter and it does not leave. The owner of the dog cannot come just pick it up. We serve them with a dangerous dog declaration that they typically meet with me down at the office, and we sit in a conference room and we go over that declaration to get them to sign it, and I sign it. And they can choose to get the dog back if they would like, but they have to conform to very strict kennel regulations. The state law does not specify those regulations. That is left up to me. We have a standard where the kennel has to be on a concrete pad. The concrete pad's got to be at least 4 inches thick, and the gauge of the kennel's got to be at least an 8-gauge wire. That's a wire that you're not going to just shake with your hands, and it's got to have a top on it, and the dog can never leave that kennel for the rest of its life unless it's going to a veterinarian care. It's got to be in that kennel 24/7. It can't be in the house. It can't be loved on or slept with or anything like that. That dog lives the rest of its life in this kennel. That's the only way they can get that dog back, and or they surrender the dog to us. Once they surrender the dog to us, it becomes the property of the Union County Sheriff's Office Animal Services Division, to which point we're going to euthanize that dog because we're not going to put it back out into the public. They can also appeal my decision, and we tell them that when we serve the declaration. We tell them that they have 3 business days under the statute to appeal my decision, and if it gets appealed, then that's when it comes to the ad hoc board or the Consolidated Human Services Board for a hearing. And we just want to kind of go over this statute with everybody on the board to kind of express and let you know what we deal with. You're welcome to ask questions to me and let me answer some stuff, but if you look at the number of bites we take reports for, it could be an Amazon driver, UPS, granddaughter over at the house. I mean, it could be anything you can imagine that someone gets bit by a dog. And keep in mind, we don't do this for any other animals, just dogs. So, I mean, people get bit by all kinds of things, but if you can imagine any kind of a bite in your mind, it can happen, and it does, and it gets reported to us. But I kind of want to stress the importance of the dangerous dog declaration when the sheriff's office gets to the point to actually declare that dog dangerous. It is not because we wanted to. There is an actual statutory reason behind it. And we have to fulfill those requirements to deem that dog dangerous. It may not be dangerous to its owners. It may not be dangerous to the 10-year-old boy that lives in the house. But it has done something to meet this criteria to deem that dog dangerous. Because we have a lot of children get bit by dogs, and those dogs are not dangerous dogs, and they're not deemed. And we just have to make sure at the sheriff's office as a whole, and the role that I'm in as lieutenant over that shelter, to make sure that I'm not sure where else to really go on this. Of course, Attorney Brandon Christian's here. He's going to go over a few things as well, but I'll open it up at this time if I'm here. There may be parts of it that are somewhat vague at times, but as I've learned in my career, some laws are vague, and they're vague for a reason, but and at the end of the day, we just try to follow that statute the best we can to protect everybody. Union County's growing, everybody knows that, the subdivisions, the amount of traffic. We're just going to have more and more animals, more and more dogs, and we just want to make sure everybody's protected to the best of our abilities and take care of the citizens.
You guys made it clear what the consequences of a dangerous dog is, like being deemed a dangerous dog. What are the consequences of a dog being deemed potentially dangerous?
So the outcome of a dangerous dog or potentially dangerous dog is the exact same outcome. A person, I'll give you an example. If a person is severely attacked by a dog to where they're in the hospital for days on end, several reconstructive surgeries, that dog has just really mauled that person up. Or you have a dog that has severely attacked their neighbor's dog, maybe $2,000, $3,000 in vet bills. In my eyes, there's a difference because we're dealing with a dog versus human life, but whether that dog is deemed a potentially dangerous because it attacked another dog or it's attacked that person, the outcome of getting that dog back is the same. Because that dog that has viciously attacked someone's pet could possibly do that to a person as well, vice versa. We don't always know what's going through an animal's mind. I know a lot of people will argue back and forth all day. I know my dog will never do that. No, you don't. You absolutely don't. And we see that on our end where people say, I would have never thought. So the outcome to get your dog back after deemed dangerous or potentially dangerous is the same.
So the label is based on what they did to get
Yes,
there,
sir.
and then it's the same path.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or anything I can answer, or be more than happy to?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Christian. I am legal counsel for the Union County Sheriff's Office. So just because I am the lawyer in the room, I'm going to be very careful here. I am not a lawyer for Union County. I am not a lawyer for Union County Human Services Agency. I represent solely the Sheriff's Office, so I'm not here to provide legal advice. I'm only here to kind of explain the way we view this appeal procedure and offer some thoughts on how we go about doing these appeals.
pass this around.
Yes, if you would. Thank you, Dr. Broadway. What Dr. Broadway is passing around right now is we have done some refinements to the dangerous dog declaration process, and part of that is that there has never been a standardized or formal appeal process. It's always been very loose, and I don't think that has done a benefit for animal services. I don't think it's done a benefit for the dog owners, and I don't think it's been a benefit to this agency. So in order to kind of make things a little bit clearer, the statute says that a person who owns or possesses a dog that has been declared dangerous or potentially dangerous may appeal that decision to the Consolidated Human Services Board, because y'all are designated to hear those appeals in our ordinance, or what's called the Ad Hoc Dangerous Dog Committee, which Janet will talk about more in your further action items on the agenda. But essentially, in order to appeal, the statute says that the person must make written objections. If you look at the document that I have had passed out to you, that's exactly what this document is for. It is designed to help somebody trying to appeal to tell you all exactly what it is that they think that Lieutenant Grigg got wrong in the dangerous dog declaration. That should help streamline the appeal process, because the whole idea of an appeal is not that you have to retry the whole thing. That's what Lieutenant Grigg's already done. He's gone through and reviewed all the evidence. What y'all are called upon to do is to look at his work and say, did he get it right or did he get it wrong? And the only thing that y'all are supposed to be looking at, based on my reading of the statute, and that's my reading of the statute, is whatever written objections the dog owner presents to you. It's not an independent fact-finding mission, which should make y'all's lives and y'all's job easier in the process, because you're only having to worry about exactly what the dog owner says was wrong with Lieutenant Grigg's decision. What we are going to do, we are going to start including this notice of appeal paperwork in the packet when Lieutenant Grigg declares a dog dangerous or potentially dangerous, and we will go ahead and accept that written appeal on y'all's behalf and transmit that to Ms. Payne and let her coordinate setting up the meetings and the appeal meeting. And that's kind of how we're going to take this process, and then Lieutenant Grigg will appear before the ad hoc committee or this board, which hears it depends on the exact timing of the declaration. And from there, the decision will be put to you, and we would ask that you simply consider what has been presented here today, including the statutory definition. Lieutenant Grigg, in his declarations, is going to say which of the statutes the dog violated. For example, did the dog severely injure a person? Or did the dog severely injure or kill another animal off of his own property? His declaration is going to say which of the provisions he acted under, so that y'all can more clearly see that and determine whether or not he made the right decision. That's really what I wanted to show y'all tonight. I'm more than happy to answer any questions about the entire process, about what we do, about how it gets to you, or even what can happen after you determine that the dog should be declared dangerous, or if you determine the dog was improperly declared dangerous, kind of what would happen after that. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I don't want to bog you all down in a meeting with a bunch of procedural laws. So with that, I'll open the floor to any questions.
I have a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
the primary changes are going to be that they have to submit the written objection, and that it has to be on the incorrect findings of fact specifically. And if anything else comes up in that, we direct them back to it wasn't written.
Well, not just the incorrect findings of fact. They can say, okay, yes, my dog bit this other dog on the tail, but that was incorrectly applied. It does not mean that he severely wounded another animal. So that could be a written objection. But the whole idea, because what was happening is that we would give them the letter and tell them they had the right to appeal, and they just write, "I want an appeal" on the letter. That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help that doesn't tell Lieutenant Gregg what he potentially did wrong. So he walks in here and then has to be prepared to essentially represent everything, which is not a streamlined hearing, and that's not the way an appeal, again, this is my opinion, I don't think that's the way an appeal is supposed to work. I think that somebody sitting as an appellate judge, for lack of a better term, is supposed to decide on the issues. That's what we in the court system make people do too. You have to say what your problem with the trial judge's ruling was. You can't just say, "Hey, I want a general review." So yes, ma'am, that's our view.
So this year, one of the dangerous dog cases that came up was someone who was currently incarcerated. Now, I don't know if the individual what their literacy was, but what would that look like if they have to write out their appeal?
Well, so I would say the person, now in this case, I happen to know the facts and circumstances of the case that you're referring to, but, we're not going to, I don't think it would be fair for this organization to hold somebody to like a lawyer training standard, but all they got to do is get close enough. Got to say, no, my dog didn't bite this other dog, or it was not a savage attack. To me, that would be, again, my opinion, doesn't control, would be enough for y'all to consider, okay, was this a mauling or was this just a simple bite? Does that meet the definition? Or maybe, yeah, he was cut up, but it wasn't real bad, maybe a way he would put it. And then y'all would say, okay, is this severe lacerations or not? I don't think they have to get the exact perfect wording, but just enough to put everybody on notice, this is my problem. Any other questions?
I don't, otherwise do you?
Thank y'all for letting us present tonight. If you do ever have any questions, Lieutenant Gregg is more than happy to provide information. Certainly, Janet knows how to get in touch with all of us, and we're more than happy to help any way we can at any time. If there's nothing else, I'll turn it back over to her.
Thank you, Brenda. We may continue on.
Yes.
The next item for your consideration is the review of the Consolidated Human Services Board Rules of Procedure and Policies. There are 5 Human Services rules, as well as the, policies, as well as the rules of procedure. And if you look on page 28 of your packet, you will see within the rules of procedure the only changes that we are proposing making, and that is underneath Article 6, Committees. We are adding a header for Section 1, which previously wasn't needed because we did not have a Section 2, and we are proposing that the addition of a Section 2 in alignment with the information that the Sheriff's Office just presented. I will read that out loud for you. It is Section 2, Ad Hoc Dangerous Dog Board, in accordance with Article 1A of Chapter 67 of the North Carolina General Statutes and Section 6-575 of the Union County Code of Ordinances. Whenever the chair determines that an appeal of a determination that a dog is a dangerous dog or a potentially dangerous dog cannot be heard by a quorum of the Human Services Board within the time period required, which is 10 days according to the statute, the chair will notify or request that the director notify the county manager, who shall then appoint 3 persons to serve as a board to hear an owner's appeal. The Ad Hoc Dangerous Dog Board is the name of that. In order to assist the county manager in appointing persons to the Ad Hoc Dangerous Dog Board, the Human Services Board shall provide the county manager with a list of individuals from one of the 2 following sources who may be able to serve on the Ad hoc Dangerous Dog Board. The first source is you all, the Human Services Board members, and we propose that annually the Human Services Board shall select and endorse by vote a minimum of 4 members to be available to serve on the Ad hoc Dangerous Dog Board. The second group is local veterinarians. Annually, Human Services Agency leadership will work to recruit up to 3 county residents whose occupation is veterinarian to be available to serve on the Ad hoc Dangerous Dog Board. Human Services Agency leadership will coordinate with the Union County Sheriff's Office, County Manager, and the Chair to complete all administrative functions related to the Ad hoc Dangerous Dog Board. Any questions about that content? Just for reference, the reason that it is a minimum of 4 members, so our intent is to have a pool of 7 people ultimately, but in case there are better, so it's the Human Services Board responsibility by statute to be available to serve. Again, if we don't have the ability to have a meeting and a quorum within 10 days of the declaration and appeal, then we would have this ad hoc board. And so we want to make sure that we have at least 3 people who are able to serve. And so our thought about having a minimum of 4 from you all is that would give us 1 extra. And then obviously if we have local veterinarians as well, then we're covered beyond that. But starting with this group as a pool of potential participants. And the only other change is on page 31, and that will be once you all vote to approve the rules as amended, if you vote to approve them as amended. However you vote to approve them, we will change that date to this evening's date, assuming that we have a majority in favor.
Do you have any questions on the proposed changes that have been presented? If we have no questions, do we have a proposal? Anyone propose we go ahead and proceed with the vote on the changes?
I propose we proceed with the vote.
Do we have a second? Second. And Lisa Kerner, second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And it would be formally.
Excellent. Thank you all. Now we'll move on to the policies. There are 5 of them. I can go through each of them and we'll be happy to do that, but want to give you just an overview of the changes because they are pretty much the same for each of them. The first change is to remove references to the Division of Public Health from each of the policies, and instead they will be listed solely as under the Consolidated Human Services Board. We did engage with the School of Government, and they verified that there does not need to be any reference to any department because once consolidation occurs, it's up to each county as to whether or not they want to reference just the agency as a whole or also maintain any distinct identity for divisions or departments within the agency. But that's not necessary because the departments are no longer standalone entities. They're just part of the Human Services Agency. So that is the initial change at the header of each of these. And then secondarily, we updated the approval and review date header descriptions and revision tracking information that is actually at the end under change history of each of the policies. So if you look, for instance, on page 32 and 33 of your packet, you'll see all of that. It previously said approved, reviewed, and revised, and we thought that it would be a little bit more clear to say originally approved, since the next date is actually reviewed and approved with any changes. And then the revised is no longer needed, or really maybe never was needed, because the change history covers revisions and has a date, and so it's captured underneath the change history. So are there any questions about those changes in general? If not, I think we need to go through each one of them, or we could just call all of them out. So let me ask this. That probably would be the easiest thing. So there are 5 policies, the policy development policy, which is literally the framework for how you all develop these, when you want one and how you want one, and how that is then done. And the second is the rules adoption policy. And that is applicable when enacting the regulations, that you all do it in accordance with the general statutes that are applicable, which is 130A-39 and 130A-43. And we actually will have an update in June, hopefully. We're going to try to do that with the School of Government to go over the authorizations that you all have and the authority based on the general statutes, which some of you have received previously, and some of you may not have had that update, but we're going to try to have an update from the School of Government at least once every 2 years in association with that. The third policy is is the appeals policy, and that is also in conjunction with General Statute 130A-24. And if you have any questions about that, we can talk a little bit more. This is the only one where questions came up in the past, but basically, or as well as any administrative penalties enforced by the local health director, those appeals would also come to you all for review. And so this just governs that and indicates that that is effectively the process should there ever be an appeal. And the fourth policy is the staff development, training, and education policy. In short, it says that we want to ensure that our staff have the resource to the knowledge and education and skills training that will help them perform their jobs effectively. And so that's the intent of that. And the last policy is the public participation for community health improvement policy, and that basically is saying we're going to complete a community health assessment, and in conjunction, which we are required to do once every 3 or 4 years. We do it on a 3-year cycle now. Thank you. Sorry, I tricked myself there. And that we will include the community to have public feedback in that space. So, if there aren't questions about any of the specific policies, I think you guys could make a motion to approve the changes as proposed in all the policies.
I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you, on policy 3, could you give me, I think I understand what it's saying. Could you just give me an
Is that
example?
the appeals policy?
Yes.
We can, and actually, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Colley for just a second, if she would speak to that, because she has a little bit more in-depth knowledge than I do, and may be able to speak to it more openly. So Tracy.
Sure, and we can give you an example. So currently, everybody hear me? Okay. So currently, here in Union County, we really only have one set of public health rules. The difference between public health rules and county ordinances, public health rules are enforceable across municipal boundaries. And our public health rules that we enforce are the irrigation well rules. And that those rules basically require irrigation wells to be constructed, sampled, inspected at the same standard as a private drinking water well. And that ensures protection of groundwater supplies, protection of public health. That is the only set of public health rules we have now. So if an irrigation well was permitted, as part of that process, the installation of that irrigation well was in violation of a setback, installed in the middle of a septic system drain field, something like that, and we had to take regulatory action. The appeal rights were provided to the property owner or well owner. The appeal would be heard, if they did appeal the decision, by this board.
So right now, this revolves around this one public health rule.
Basically, yes.
That is the only one we have. I spoke with our county attorney this morning, confirmed that. There could be some old ones way back in the day, but this is the only one, and it's been in effect since 2008. Now, just for clarity, there are county ordinances that environmental health is involved in enforcing. Those appeals are heard by the Board of County Commissioners. So examples of those, which there are two, is the Union County Ordinance for Mass Gathering and Union County Ordinance for Solid Waste Management. So in those situations, the Board of County Commissioners may look to you all for information, expertise, review, but the overall responsibility and jurisdiction for those ordinances lies with the Board of County Commissioners. Any follow-up questions or?
That explains it. Thank you.
And those don't go across all municipalities, correct?
Right, so the irrigation well rules are enforceable across all municipalities throughout Union County for, obvious reasons for the public health importance. The mass gathering ordinance and solid waste ordinance are only enforceable in unincorporated Union County and 2 municipalities that have adopted them, and that's Mineral Springs and Hemby Bridge.
Are there any other questions? There are no other questions. Are there any proposals to move forward with the vote?
I propose to adopt the changes.
Do we have a second to adopt the changes?
Second.
And a second from Ms. Susan Merrimack. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Excellent. Thank you all. Thank you very much, and y'all have a good night. The next item is the Ad hoc Dangerous Dog Board selection of potential members from the Human Services Board. I won't go back through all of that again since we just read it, but at this point, if you all would select and nominate 4 members to be available to serve on the Ad hoc Dangerous Dog Board and then endorse those that by vote, that would be great. I will say that Earl Ford and Wendy Sellers are not here this evening, but both of them have confirmed that if necessary, they would be willing to serve on this Ad hoc Dangerous Dog Board potential member pool.
Is this something new that you're doing? Because I know the way we've done it in the before is like anybody on this board, whoever is available.
It is, and so y'all can, if everybody says, yeah, I'd be happy to serve, and that'd be great, we just would like to have at least a minimum of 4 of you to be the first 4 that we could call, or part of the, actually, the county manager is going to choose whomever he or she at the time would like. We will present him with at least 7, hopefully, at least 4 from you all, and then again, trying to have at least 3 other local veterinarians, and he can select the members of that ad hoc committee at that, or ad hoc board at that time. If more than 4 of you would like to serve and are interested in that, by all means, we welcome as many of you as possible. Just the goal is so that if and when these come up, which they are rare, but when they do, they're time sensitive. And so we want to make sure that everybody's well educated, which was part of the intent of having the sheriff's office here this evening, because if it's within 10 days of your regular meeting, then all of you would hear, and it would be the full group. So that's relevant. But so yes, it's just more formalized, actually, to try to make us be assuredly able to have a pool for the county manager to pull from if he so chooses.
So Janet, I'm happy to be a part of that. My term is up in June, and then I'm happy to be one of the veterinarians, like
Okay.
one of the 3 veterinarians.
All right, great. And so I guess we can count that both ways then in that regard. And Tracy, I think you have something
Yeah, I was
to
just
add.
going to restate what's already been discussed, but remind everyone that this process will be repeated annually at the same time the chair and vice chair are selected.
And again, you may never be called to do anything. It's just, I think, hopefully good practice to have this in place.
Could we do a show of hands of those who might be interested in being one of those four to see if we already have the number to proceed?
That is perfectly good. And when we have two who are not here, if necessary, also.
Right. So of everyone here tonight, if you would be willing to put your name forward as someone to potentially serve, if you could please raise your hand. Okay.
All right, great. We have 4 in the room. That means, I guess, the 2 who aren't in the room may
Well,
be on
with
the
Dr. Weiss going
right?
yes, say again?
So they're still part of the
They can still be part of the pool.
That's what I was going to say. With Dr. Weiss going out, can we do a pool of 6 then? It's like, since they said they would be willing to?
Absolutely. Yes, you all can vote on that. And so, can we say the names just so that we can have it for the
Yes.
record? Or Carla, did you get that?
I got it all.
Okay, great, never mind.
She's got it.
You got it?
Okay. Put it to a vote.
Yes, please.
Have a motion?
Motion to approve the
Motion to
members
approve.
of the ad hoc dangerous dog board.
Thank you, Dr. Weiss. And do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Kerner. All those in favor?
Aye.
So at this point, you'll be part of the whole pool, but effectively still the Human Services Board. And then if you do roll off and don't.
And I'll try to recruit some other veterinarians for the board.
It'll be great if you could work with Dr. Broadway. He's going to spearhead that for us on the county's behalf. And so if you roll off the board.
I retract my offer then. I'm just kidding.
Call me as always.
No, I'm just kidding. I just, if I have to work with him, I'm not sure I want to. I'm just kidding.
That's awesome. I do.
Janet, if she's going to roll off the board in June, she's responsible for finding her own replacement.
I like that as an idea as well. At least recommend.
I didn't sign up for that.
Encourage some of those people you're recruiting for the board. How about that?
I know
for
people I can ask.
That's
so.
great. Before I finish with my portion, I would like to ask, I believe all of you saw the roster, but if you didn't have a chance, I'm sure everybody signed in, but specifically to verify your mailing address and phone number. The phone number is not going to be posted for public consumption, but we just need it internally so that, let's say we have an ad hoc dangerous dog board and we need to get in touch with you, that we have that in place. And also, we have kicked off the budget season for the FY27 budget, which is really hard to believe. And so we'll be providing an update about that at some point, but I guess as a starting point, the good news that I can share is we have not been requested, as we have been in prior years recently, to have proposed budget cuts, at least initially. That does not mean that there won't be any, but it does mean that we're starting at a neutral point. We do know that it is going to be probably a very tight budget year in terms of revenue and that sort of thing, and so we also don't expect many requests to be approved, but certainly we will bring forth anything that is necessary for us to sustain operations and provide excellent service to the community. And so I'll provide you guys an update on that as we move through the process. That is all that I have.
Will we go to Ms. Morgan next?
Yes, we will. Yes, you may. Sorry, I turned it off.
Good evening. So I'm going to present to you tonight our bad debt write-off. It's in your packet, but I'm not going to read all of that to you, just do a summary. So to remain in compliance with state guidance, public health is required to make every reasonable attempt to collect patient debt for uninsured patients, and patient balances owed after third-party insurance determines that balances left are the responsibility of our patients. So the parameters that must be met to meet bad debt write-off, it has to be less than $50 owed in the individual account, The balance must be 12 months old or greater. There has to be no patient payment activity on the account for 12 months, and we determine that by sending out the patient statements monthly in an attempt to collect the balances that are owed. Balances are moved into inactive status in our EMR system, which is our electronic medical record, QRMD, and upon approval of the bad debt write-off report by the BOCC. We do reactivate these accounts when and if services are rendered to the patient after they are inactivated for bad debt. The current amount that we're dealing with is $1,406.64, and that's represented in 57 individual client accounts. So the action that we're requesting is a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to authorize the county manager to maintain compliance with the public health bad debt write-off process and allow our staff to complete this bad debt write-off process in the amount of $1,406.64.
I just have a question. So if someone owes money and they don't pay it, and it's written off, can they come back in and still be seen and get new services and run up debt again? Or are they required to pay that balance that they didn't pay?
So when they come back in for services, the debt would be reactivated, and then we would continue.
So they would still
the
be
process.
charged?
They would still be charged, but we would not refuse service.
In which case it goes over 50, it doesn't get written off.
No, this is bad debt. There is a debt set-off process for amounts over 50. And these processes are done annually. We just brought you the bad debt set-off tonight. Or write-off, excuse me. Any other questions?
So if you write it off and they come in and they happen to pay it, then what happens?
And they pay what's owed, they just continue to receive services.
But if we've written it, you're asking
Yeah,
if
so
we've
if it's
written it off,
then isn't it
then do
gone?
they have to pay it after it's written off?
No, with the write-off, it would be reactivated. In other words, this is a client that may have come in and received a service, and then we can't get in touch with them. They're not
Okay, it's been
responding,
lingering for a
they
year.
haven't been back in at
Okay.
all. So it's not like they're coming in and continuing to receive services and not paying. So there had to have been no activity for payment on the account for a year, and they're not responding to the patient statements.
Okay, but if you write it off, then isn't it gone, or is it just, I mean?
They're still in the system. It's written off out of the QRMD system, but we have a way to reactivate the debt.
Okay, it's just out of that system.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
it just kind of cleans it, like a
Yes,
housekeeping.
ma'am.
Okay, that's fine. I have a problem with that at all. I was just being curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so is this, I'm just curious, some more questions. Is this done every January? Because I just don't remember if I was here last January or seeing this. And if it is done every January, how does this compare to previous Januaries?
It's done annually. I don't know that we brought it back consistently in the same month.
Okay, just
So
wondering.
yes, I can check that for you and bring that back.
Annually, is it about this amount, or is this, how does this compare to previous years?
Historically, it's not a large amount when you're in the $50 and under, because it's a lot of times it's co-pays, or I'll just give an example. It may be a long-term birth control method that's $800. Well, that patient, if it's long-term, doesn't have to come back in for 2 or 3 years, so we may not see that patient, and that device just doesn't get paid off. That would be an example.
Okay, just so I'm clear, so after a year, the patient has bad debt, you don't see them for a year, gets written off, they come back in for service. And it gets reactivated, this bad debt, and you tell them you owe us $25. And they say, well, do you put them on a payment plan, or do you?
They can be on a payment plan, yes.
So you do require payment?
We do require payment.
To get more service?
Yes, they also have to have their co-pays as well.
We don't refuse them service.
But you still give them service even
Yes,
though?
ma'am.
We do not refuse service.
We do not refuse service.
So you ask for it, but if they say they can't pay, they still get served.
They would still receive services, but we would reactivate the debt. We have to clean up the QRMD system, which is our EMR, and if they're not active in the system, so we're cleaning up the debt within the QRMD medical record system. But we can still go back in and reactivate, because if they come in, they're going to go back into the patient system. So we would be able to see them again.
But when their debt goes over 50, it's a different,
It's a different process altogether.
and this counts toward that.
They're two
Like if it
different
reactivates
processes. Yes.
and the new pushes it
Yes,
over
but
50,
they're two
it
different
goes on to a new, so
processes.
so there's even a pathway there,
Yes,
like
ma'am.
because of the reactivation. Okay. Any other questions? Any motions?
I'll move that they write off the bad debt in that system.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Next up, we have Ms. Tracy Colley.
Okay, so I have 2 new public health fees for your consideration this evening. The first one is a CPT code 90611 for Jynneos. This code represents a combined smallpox, monkeypox vaccine. And then the second one is CPT code 90661, Flucelvax, and that is for an influenza virus vaccine. And I have a couple of very smart ladies here. If you have any specific questions about these vaccines, I'm sure we can answer any questions you might have.
Has there been any long-term safety testing on these vaccines?
So Jynneos we've been given the Jynneos vaccine. I can't speak specifically to any specific data to studies, but the reason we are bringing this code to the board now is the lots that we've been given by the state foundation, and so now you do with that with what you will, but the Jynneos vaccines have been used for smallpox, not just the mpox. But again, as far as specific data, I can't really speak to safety.
So my question would be, do you look at how many, because you said their vaccines are expiring, so they're going to be wasted, right? So do you guys look at how many you've used and how many, so you're not buying and stocking and then sort of lost?
Yes,
Okay.
we monitor that inventory weekly.
And this charge is per dose for Jynneos or both doses?
That per dose.
And the Jynneos was actually developed back in like 2003 originally for smallpox. So it's been around for a long time, and then was approved for mpox recently, a couple of years ago.
We just, the reason we want to get it approved now, before those lots potentially expire, is we would not be able to administer those vaccines without having, the fees approved.
Do you know how common it is that we administer these vaccines?
I'll be honest, when we have, risk, when there's media regarding outbreaks, when we are getting information regarding outbreaks, we see a higher demand, an increase in uptake. Right now, that's not necessarily the case. I will say the last dose we administered was last year.
When we're given those free and we didn't previously have a fee, and they have commercial reimbursement, do we get funding from the commercial insurance for it?
We would charge the commercial insurance.
So previously, it had the potential to...
I don't think so, no. If we get it for free, we don't charge at all, period.
Yes.
In order for us to charge a fee, regardless of...
You have to have a fee.
We have to have a fee.
Even on private insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this a common policy where they give you so many and then say you're on your own, you gotta start charging or paying for it?
Emerging conditions, it is, yes.
For what?
With emerging conditions, so newer conditions like with COVID. Initially with COVID, the state supplied all of the vaccines, and then we kind of transitioned away from that and started billing commercial insurances.
And so monkeypox would be an emerging condition.
And the demand, after that initial amount is provided by the state, the demand is determined by the, public health department or the area. Our demand may be much lower than, say, the Charlotte area, Mecklenburg County, or Durham, Guilford County, those types of areas.
Can you explain the fee slide?
The sliding fee scale.
If the vaccine is given in a clinic that the fee has to slide, then the fee slides. If it's given in immunization clinic, that's the only clinic that it would not slide.
And what causes a sliding fee? Is that based on income? I think that's really the question.
Based on income, like with, yes, with income.
So basically, if someone could afford the full fee based on their income level, then they might pay the full fee. And then there are thresholds, and those are established specifically in regard to
Federal poverty. Yeah.
level.
So there's no projections on what the cost might end up being for something that was previously free that we then approved today that could fall to the sliding fee, like what we're looking at, the impact, financial impact on.
The cost to the residents or the total revenue that we would anticipate?
No, you would anticipate because of if the fee slid, is it going to go below what it actually costs you to obtain it?
If the fee slides, would that go below what it cost us to purchase?
It could. It could. And then there are some patients that would receive it, it wouldn't slide. There are some patients that would receive it that they have private insurance or Medicaid that would pay the full fee.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, so do we have the vaccine out there available that's separate, smallpox, or is this just going to replace that and you have to get this that has both smallpox and monkey? Because if how would a child need a monkeypox vaccine?
If a child is,
Yeah, they could need smallpox or they could need mpox if they're sexually active or they've been exposed.
Like a 10-year-old?
Potentially.
Do we have options that they can get the vaccine that's not a combination? Or is this going to replace that? So if they want the smallpox vaccine, now they have to get a vaccine that has both automatically? That has smallpox and monkeypox? Because they just want one? Because we know where monkeypox comes from.
Jynneos was first developed for smallpox,
Right.
not for mpox.
But it's being
Right, but-
used for mpox. Our standing order is that it's an mpox vaccine.
So it's the same vaccine, but
Yes.
now being used for both?
Right.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yes.
That's what I was asking, okay, that's fine. I was asking if there was like an addition to it, but
No, it was
So
not
maybe that's
an
what you
addition,
explained, I
it's
just didn't
just-
hear it. from-
Yes.
The efficacy is for both smallpox.
That's what I was asking.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, just to be clear, there's not an additional component
That's-
for mpox, yeah.
That's a good question.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at, thank you.
Any other questions with regard to the request to approve these two fees?
I make a motion to approve the two fees.
We have a motion to approve these two fees. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Have a second. Thank you very much. Dr. Charles, or no, I'm sorry, I can't see your name. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. They are.
Thank you, and thank you for the questions.
I do have a question, though, now that we have approved them, with regard to if someone came in at the age of 10 that was sexually active,
With monkeypox.
with monkeypox. I mean, I don't want us to go down the rabbit hole on a random scenario. But 10 and sexually active, like, are there any protocols in place for that? Like, for understanding and making sure that that's not a child welfare situation?
So specifically, there's a specific set of criteria for Jynneos. You would be MSM, and men who have sex with other men,
or in contact with men who have sex with other men. Obviously, if there are concerns about, high-risk behaviors that would warrant a report, that would be another question. I would not anticipate, 10-year-old coming in to request the Mpox vaccine based on that, just given the risk history. But obviously, if that was a conversation to be had, it would be at a provider's discretion. I mean, and that would be consulted during that visit.
Thank you very much for the clarity. Ms. Colley, do you have another on the communicable illness report?
So this report that we're going to begin doing each month at the board meeting is just to keep you informed of the current status of respiratory illnesses and the measles case numbers that are expanding in the United States, and also, kind of give you an update from the national, state, and bring that all the way down to the Union County level. So just look to receive this report monthly, during this time where we have influenza, respiratory viruses, and measles. So I'm going to let Megan take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Megan Kroll. I'm the Clinical Senior Supervisor here at Union County Public Health. And tonight we just, again, to reiterate, we want to bring you some updates for respiratory illnesses, some measles, that's an exciting topic, and then some vaccine changes that you may have heard in the news regarding the schedules for childhood vaccines. So for respiratory illnesses, and this is more broadly the epidemiology in the U.S., many may be aware that influenza-like illness rates are higher than rates previously noted within the last 6 years. Rates do vary dramatically from state to state, but North Carolina rates are very high, and that's based on percent positivity, the number of illnesses presenting to ERs, and that information is captured with a statewide database. The CDC estimates that there are over 11 million flu-like illnesses across the U.S., 120,000 hospitalizations, and 5,000 deaths from the flu thus far. The main reasons for such dramatic increases include a mutation, so influenza A, specifically strain H3N2, mutated over the summer, and that shifted from a J subclade to a slightly different K subclade. And the subclades are just like taxonomy. It's kind of tracking the lineage of viruses, and continued decline in vaccination rates. Mutations are very normal for the flu, and those mutations can cause changes in trends. This year, we've kind of seen more significant or substantial trend changes than what we usually see with mutations. And unfortunately, this mutation occurred after the flu vaccine formula was finalized in February. So it means that the flu vaccine for this year may only recognize parts of the mutated flu virus. And although mismatched, the flu vaccine has seemed to prove some protection against severe illnesses, and preliminary data from the UK shows that the flu vaccine may reduce hospitalization by 70 to 75% in children and 30 to 40% in older adults. Last year was the deadliest non-pandemic flu vaccine for U.S. children on record. It also happened to have one of the lowest flu vaccination rates. So far, 9 children have died from flu or flu complications so far this year, and we anticipate that it's even higher given that reporting's typically delayed. The higher flu rates and mutations also has impacts on our concerns for high pathogenic avian influenza. When you have higher rates of circulating flu, you have the higher likelihood that somebody's co-infected. So if they're co-infected with HPAI, then it can cause another mutation, which leads to easier transmission from person to person.
Luckily, RSV activity and COVID transmission are a little bit lower than what we traditionally see with this time of year. This will be the first year that the winter wave does not peak in the first week of January. As you can see here, in the purple, you do have total respiratory rates. The flu-like is in, the influenza-like illness is in the green, and then the blue and yellow are RSV and COVID respectively. Inpatient admissions also appeared to spike that the same week, which was the week of ending in the 27th. And it showed the highest percentage of ER visits with respiratory-like illness with a rate of 25.3% of all ER visits having those respiratory symptoms. These rates have decreased slightly over the last 2 weeks, which kind of, luckily signals a peak and now a decline. Any questions about respiratory illness? All right, so measles in the U.S. I'm sorry.
What's the flu vaccine efficacy? Especially since, I guess, the flu mutated after the flu was approved.
So efficacy varies year to year, kind of depending on what the mutations or the strains that are circulating. And then it varies depending on the effectiveness as far as illness severity, hospitalizations, which is why I point that out as well. So it will vary depending on if the flu vaccine mutates. And when you're talking about efficacy, you think about, does it prevent illness? Does it prevent severe illness? Does it prevent hospitalizations?
Do we know? Does anybody know? Do the doctor?
And you won't until the flu season is over.
Okay. Or last year, what was it? Do we know? Anybody know? I mean, from what I've
right
heard, it's
offhand.
pretty low. The efficacy is pretty low. That's why it's not even recommended, I think, now by the Department
It's
of Health.
recommended. Like I said, it would just depend.
It rarely is actually, it's rarely perfect. And the goal, I guess, is to minimize or at least decrease hospitalizations. It's not going to prevent as much. So just even if you get the flu vaccine doesn't mean you're not going to get the flu. The hope is that if you get the flu vaccine, it won't be as severe.
And especially in the
best.
immune-compromised folks, the elderly, children, folks taking chemotherapy, most at risk.
For clarity, was that mutation later in the season and then the spike earlier in the season? So it was both hit on both ends? The mutation this year, was later than typical, and so the vaccine's going to have less efficacy probably this
The vaccine
year.
formula was finalized in February. The mutation occurred in summer. Correct.
And then the spike was earliest, so it's two.
Yes. All right. And so now on to measles. For the full year of 2025, there was a total of 2,144 cases of measles. And this was reported just in the U.S. Among these, as you can see, all of those were within 45 jurisdictions. 25 of the cases were among international visitors to the U.S. There were 49 outbreaks reported in 2025, and 88% of the confirmed cases were outbreak associated. And for comparison, in 2024, there were 16 outbreaks, with 69% of the cases being outbreak associated. 11% of the cases were hospitalized, so 240 of the 2144 cases, and then there were 3 confirmed deaths. As of January 6th, we actually know that there are more than 3 cases, but this is per the CDC resource that I had, reported in the U.S., all of the cases residing in either North or South Carolina. And again, we know that there were more cases because within North Carolina, we've had more reported cases. So in North Carolina and Union County, we've had 5 reported cases in North Carolina within the last 30 days. One was with a child in Polk County. There were 3 siblings in Buncombe County, and then 1 partially vaccinated child in Rutherford County. Those 5 cases all had history of travel to South Carolina to known areas of measles outbreak, and 3 of the 4 cases were in the same household. 4 measles responses, including an international airport terminal, emergency rooms, urgent cares, and restaurants. In Union County, we have had 3 measles rollouts in the last 2 months. And so with measles rollout events, when we have people present to healthcare providers with illness like fever, rash, or measles is on the list of differential diagnosis and testing is done. Ideally, we work with the providers to give guidance regarding testing and control measures before the child leaves, because we don't want to test anybody and just say, oh, go back to your child care center Monday. We want them to obviously make sure that they stay home until that test comes back negative. These events have given our team an opportunity to engage in preparedness exercises and discuss what we should do or what would happen should that event arise.
Of the 3 rollouts, were any positive?
Come again?
They were all negative?
All 3 negative, yes, correct.
Do you track whether those were vaccinated or partially vaccinated?
We don't, not until we get those results back. We don't want to exhaust those resources. Now, obviously, if it is, we get a little more information just to be, on deck in case we do go back for any reports. We get with the provider to see if there's kind of any other need-to-know information, which typically that does include, with that provider report, it does include vaccination status. And I will say 2 of the 3 rule-out cases we had were unvaccinated. So for preparedness for measles in Union County, we've developed toolkits for measles response. We continue to perfect those toolkits as we get those rule-outs and respond to reports. We continue to work with school health, other community partners to bolster measles preparedness. We've sent out to child care centers, because it is very common practice for schools to flag and note those children who are unvaccinated, but for child care centers, just encouraging that practice as well. When we do have to respond to measles, it's going to be very important to implement those control measures. Isolation, quarantine for those that are unvaccinated. So quickly identifying and notifying those parents and children will be very important for response. We maintain testing supplies to ensure testing is available when necessary. And again, as we've kind of went through these rule-outs, just discussing responses so that we can have more clear and precise communication practices. Any questions about measles? Perfect, thank you. And so for tuberculosis, in 2025, we had 4 new active cases. 2 cases were completing their treatment for 2024, so we had a total of 6 active cases that we followed through 2025. Of the 4 new cases, 3 were extrapulmonary or clinical cases, and 1 pulmonary case. The contact investigations, I think, was like 28, but I don't want to give you finalized numbers because I did not look that up, and I apologize. For LTBI cases, we had 156 patients that were evaluated for LTBI, and LTBI is latent tuberculosis infections. This is compared to 154 evaluations in 2024, so pretty stable. We had 48 that declined treatment, 38 were lost to follow-up. Treatment was not indicated for 18 of the cases. 20 of them completed treatment, 15 are still currently receiving LTBI therapy, and 17 patients were still pending confirmation and disposition, which means our provider reviewed everything and ordered the therapy. This far in 2026, we have one rule out for active TB.
Is 20% lost to follow-up typical?
It is. Once just because we get referrals for LTBI also from private providers. So a lot of times, unless that investigation was initial, unless that was initiated here, a lot of times we're just unsuccessful in contacting a lot, and most of the time it does happen with outside referrals. Any other questions for Dee? Thank you. And then many have seen the changes in vaccine recommendations. The CDC did formally update the U.S. childhood vaccine schedule. I felt like this was a really good demographic to kind of show which changed. Before, all of them were universally recommended, and so that shifted to high-risk group, which means if they fall into those high-risk categories, we would recommend that without the shared clinical decision-making process. And for the others listed on the shared clinical decision-making, just meaning discussing risk versus benefits with your provider. What we do know, as far as how that changes practice for Union County, is the North Carolina law regarding childhood vaccinations has not changed. So that means there's no changes in the required vaccines for school or even child care centers, because child care centers also are listed in the law for childhood vaccination requirements. Our providers are well-versed in shared clinical decision-making. This is not the first time that's kind of come up in the world of vaccinations. We anticipate more guidance coming from the state regarding potential law changes that drive those vaccine mandates. And we really just don't know what the long-term impacts may have for vaccine.
So I have a couple questions. One, for the recommended for all children, the HPV virus, I know, is now recommended, one shot is recommended versus 2 or 3. Do we explain that to a patient to say, okay, these are the recommended?
Right.
But now it's changed from previously it was 2 or 3 shots to 1 shot, for the HPV virus. I mean, do we go through that with the patient?
We would give them what's the current recommendation.
Like 1 shot?
Yes.
You would say, okay, now it's 1 shot, okay. All right, and do we provide, I think I know the answer because I know they don't do it in the pediatrician's office, or they didn't in the past, but the insert that shows the safety and efficacy in the studies that were done for each of these vaccines. Do we provide
information sheets, which is required by law.
Okay, and it shows how long these vaccines were studied for?
No, most of the vaccine information sheets goes through potential side effects and
who needs it,
yes.
why you need it, what side effects
what it is, what it's for.
But it doesn't show you what the studies, how the length of the study was.
No.
But it does have links to additional information.
It does.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. What is shared clinical decision-making? What does that look like in a doctor's office as compared to being just straight recommended?
So it does, it looks a little bit different for each patient. We may have some parents that come in with lots of questions and talk about, well, how would this benefit my child versus what if I chose not to? So it does look very individualized, and I think that's the most important part about shared clinical decision-making, because it is very individualized for each patient. So it could be that, hey, I don't really even know what this vaccine's for. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? And why do why would my child be at risk for hepatitis A? So it does.
And to be honest, we've done that all along.
It's
It's baked into our.
should be happening at medical visits all the time.
Right,
Hopefully it
aren't-
does.
Aren't all decisions like with your provider shared clinical decision-making? I mean,
Right.
to some extent? I mean,
Yes.
so I guess I just don't see the difference between.
I think now it's very intentional versus, okay, here's a list of vaccines that we're gonna recommend for you today. Whereas, it may warrant, okay, here are all of the vaccines that are available to you today. These are the ones that are universally recommended for everybody. Here are the ones that we can also offer you, and this is why.
Got it.
And keep in mind that we receive federal funding, so we are held to these standards. We don't know what private physicians do in their offices. We can only speak to what we do and what the requirements are, and we follow them.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's my question. If you're bound by federal funding, are you following the new CDC recommendation, or you have to follow the NC law? Because right now, this is irrelevant if NC law hasn't changed, right? So federal funding tied to that, you still have to recommend the old schedule, not the new schedule.
Right, and that's the guidance that we've received so far from North Carolina to say, hold, as soon as we know what this means. And I will preface this to say, most everything as far as law refers to ACIP recommendations. ACIP recommendations are currently different than what the CDC recommendations are now. And that's because ACIP has not met to review and make a decision on this just yet. And so everything, all of our standing orders refers not necessarily to what CDC schedules are, but ACIP. And ACIP is the, yes, Immunization Practices Advisory Council.
Has made the recommendations.
When you say you anticipate more guidance, or what do you, they're saying, they're talking to you, what are they saying? And who are they?
And it's the North Carolina Immunization Branch. So they, when I say they, it's the immunization branch that kind of guides these vaccine practices. The immunization branch is what tells us, yes, this is, this is a go.
Okay. Are they saying that the laws may change, or the law is going to stay the same? What are they?
From what our immunizations coordinator has told me, they do anticipate some changes, but we don't know what that looks like yet.
Okay.
Historically, has the NC Immunization Division, haven't they always deferred to the CDC?
ACIP for immunization practices, yes. And right now, ACIP is not what this is.
Because they haven't reviewed it yet.
Right.
But it's what it's going to be under review.
Right.
Yeah.
It will.
We have a new ACIP.
Correct.
Who's made changes already, right? Okay.
And remember, we're bound by law, so that's where we fall. As these processes catch up with one another, we'll fall in line, but at this point, we have to follow the legal requirements.
Yeah.
So all that to say, more to come.
Thank you.
For that. Keep us posted when it comes.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you.
And we have no public comments tonight? We have no public comments. All right. Do we have a motion?
Wait, updates.
Updates, that's right. My bad.
That's okay.
like this really quick. But I wanted to share with you, since we're at the end of 25 and beginning of 26, just some dashboard information on human services. So during the calendar year for 25, at the front for navigation, which is who meets our clients at the door, we saw 429 clients. 28,209 were checked in at the front desk for DSS services. 21,070 calls came through our switchboard, and 3,595 interpreting hours were done by human service interpreters and the administrative side. So we had quite a lot of folks come through, and look forward to serving a lot more in 26.
Hey y'all, I'm Karen, Division Manager for Economic Services at DSS, and I'm sitting in for Ashley, who could not be here tonight. So real quick, she wanted me to let you guys know that our Behavioral Health Collaborative will be fully staffed by the end of the month, which is a huge blessing. We now are under the Child and Family Services health plan for all of our foster care children. Basically, the change in that is that all foster care children in the state of North Carolina are now covered by the same health plan instead of having our local LME. So they're all under one plan. We don't have anything positive or negative to say at this point because it's brand new and we're still all trying to get adjusted to it. But we do have our previous worker who did all of our foster care Medicaid cases. She retired, and we do have a new staff person starting the 24th of January, so that's good. And then one of my lead staff are going to be training them. We continue with Medicaid open enrollment, getting all of those applications. We were, and I haven't gotten the newest updates because I've been out on vacation, but prior to my vacation, we were getting roughly 700 apps a week, whereas previous months we were getting 700 applications. So my staff are working very, very hard right now. And we are just waiting on pending changes to the way we do things on research in Medicaid, having to do them every 6 months, and the new able-bodied adult policies coming down. We're just waiting on definitive guidance from the state, but I will be presenting at your meeting next month, so hopefully I will have more information for you guys.
Another question of her?
Yeah, sure. If I can answer it.
700 applications per week?
Yes.
Is that an unprecedented amount?
During open enrollment, so what happens is when citizens go to the federal marketplace and then make an application, the marketplace system says whether they might be eligible for Medicaid. If they might be eligible for Medicaid, those applications are then sent to us because we have to evaluate them first because you cannot receive the subsidy and Medicaid. And so they want us to do those first because it's coming from two different pots of money. So the 700 a week is typical for this time of year, typically from December 1st until usually the end of February or beginning of March. We're getting roughly 700 apps a week. And my staff, we did get overtime approved, so they are working some overtime and we're cranking them out, but they are very tired right now and just waiting on those to slow down.
All right, so we had our annual Christmas Bureau. We helped about 1,800 individuals, which is actually down a little bit from previous years. We had implemented an online application and there were just a couple of changes, so we just saw a small decrease in our numbers. We weren't counting individuals, we were counting families before, so I can't tell you apples to apples in terms of numbers, but still, we had a huge increase in the number of volunteers who helped us. We had an increase in the number of sponsors, and so it was really, really positive this year. Not that it hasn't been positive before, but I feel like it was great. With our senior nutrition program, we have taken 91 clients off of our wait list since beginning of July. We have about 19 more that we had planned to take off because we were given additional funds to take about 110 people off the wait list. what we did discover is that we also have lost some of our clients from services over this year. So we actually, we had lost between, I guess, January and June, 27 people had fallen off of our regular services, and another 30 since the beginning of July. So we do have capacity to add even more clients on. We can only do that as fast as we have the capacity of our staff to do that. So it does take time for us to add people on because we have to do assessments and evaluations. So we can't add them all at one time because if we, first of all, we don't have the capacity, but if we did that, then we have to do evaluations every 6 months. It would just be really impossible with our staffing to do that. So we're doing the best we can to add people. We are down to 301 people on our wait list now, which is a lot better than what it has been. And I know we came to the to this meeting and talked about that before, and at one point we had like almost 700. So we are down. About 155 of them are for frozen meals, so that means they live in outside of where any of our meal routes are. And of course our frozen meals cost about, I don't know, almost not twice, but 1.5 times what our warm meals do. And then we have 146 waiting for warm meals. So we're working through that, but we're making progress, but there's more to be done. Oh, and one more thing, our low-income energy assistance program, we weren't sure what was happening with it when the shutdown was in effect, but once that stopped, we were given funding for that, and so that opened up to the entire public January 1st. And we have seen lots and lots of people coming in for assistance. And we are also paying our staff overtime because we usually hire 2 or 3 additional staff people just for the season, but we had put that on hold because we didn't know what was happening with our funding. So now we have actually trained some of my other staff and workforce to help out when they can, and also have given them overtime at least for a short period of time to keep occasions as well, which is what our staff usually process. So it's a lot of work, just like Medicaid. We just see a slew of people coming in. With our SIP applications, those have to be processed in 2 days. 2 days, and 1 day for emergency situations, and then our low-income energy assistance program, we have up to 10 days to process those applications. That's it.
Okay, so just a quick additional update for me. One thing I wanted to do was introduce Charlotte Kazaya down there on the end. She is the new Environmental Health Director. Been in the role about 10 months or so. So not quite a year. Fantastic job. That is a very busy place, as you all know. So I'm glad she was here tonight so I could introduce her. And then just want to thank these ladies for the work that they do. You heard from the report that there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes here in Union County Public Health, surveillance work, follow-up activities. I mean, it's just an extremely important part of what we do to keep the community and our population safe and healthy.
Hello, everyone. I am determined to keep my updates positive and good news only, so I need you to hold me accountable to that. Today, I want to talk about 2 claims that we won in December, both surviving spouse claims. One gave a win of $29,900 back pay and $1,700 a month. And that was a claim that was resubmitted, which was denied twice by the VA. And our Veteran Service Officer, Robert Turner, resubmitted it with an amended death certificate to win that case. The second one was by James Anderson. The veteran had a claim in, and then he passed away. And that gives the spouse the opportunity to do what's called a substitute claimant claim. And she won $85,000 in addition to the $1,600 a month now for the rest of her life. So those were big wins for us for December. Thank you.
Hello. We've had a couple of really cool things happen in transportation with the last couple of months. We have to do safety training. We do it quarterly. And we were tired of just sitting in a classroom and doing some of that training. So we got in touch with emergency management and said, what can we do? We need a drill. We need a real life scenario to engage our staff and have them feel like they're really out there doing it. And they ran with that. Or my small vision of it just being transportation evolved into having multiple agencies. Union EMS was there. We did it in Waxhaw, so we had Waxhaw Fire Department, Waxhaw Police Department, Lancaster EMS, Charlotte Medics, you name it, they were there. And it was a scenario where our we had 2 vehicles that were gifted to us. So we really took those vehicles and demolished them. It was a pickup truck ran into the side of our transportation vehicle and it flipped with 13 passengers inside. We had them moulaged, so they all had injuries to them where it really looked like they were having injuries. And we never told anyone from any of our departments what was really going on. They had to walk into the scene and be surprised and figure out what they had to do. And I know my team said it was surreal when they actually got out there because they're late to the scene. They're not the first ones out there. So when they get there, all emergency is there. And they have to walk in and just figure out what's going on. So we had an incident command there, and they had to work through it. And I said, I'm taking vacation that day. You guys are on it. So I stepped back and let them take care of it. They all did a great job, all the agencies and everyone. We couldn't have asked for a better training. And then we also had a magazine get in touch with us and ask us to do a feature article on rural transportation, and that article hit at the end of December. So it's called Business View, if anybody wants to go look at the article. Thank you.
Thank you all. Any other updates? Any motions to dismiss?
Just a motion to adjourn.
One motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Thank you all.
What are you going to wear?
Later.
Should.